not even minutes, for just a few seconds, because probably just getting connected to audio. Okay. See, most everyone has been able to mute, so I think you're probably all able to hear me. Is there anyone on the call that cannot, is having any trouble connecting or would like a few more minutes? Just go ahead and either push the raise your hand button or just pipe up. Everybody doing okay? You can also use the chat box, which you should all see on your GoToMeeting control panel, and I will do my best to keep track of the chat box as we go through the session. Okay, and go ahead and mute your lines and we will get started. My name is Catherine Adams. I am the Director of Continuing Education for the Society, and I do help manage the logistical end of getting all of this content submitted and reviewed. So I think I can answer most of your questions, and I am hopeful that you have a few that you're calling in today with so that we can really meet your needs. I'd like to start off by asking if anyone on the call currently has a burning question they'd like to ask right off the bat. If you may be short of time or anything like that, that I can answer for you right away. Any questions right off the bat before I get started? Don't be shy. Okay. Hearing nothing at this point. And again, I will remind you that the chat box is available to you as well. So a lot of people who are getting ready to submit to IMSH are interested in knowing what exactly are we looking for. How does the planning committee for IMSH know if the content being submitted is on target? I can answer that question because we administer a needs assessment survey in the month of February every year, right after IMSH is finished. We send all of the members of SSH a needs assessment that asks them what kinds of problems and concerns are they having in simulation-based education that perhaps we can provide some information about. We got back 8 content tracks, and we'll talk about those in a minute, but our primary concern this year is trying to write our learner level problem. You can see on the screen that the needs assessment is telling us that 25% of our respondents are needing very, very basic content. That means they've been in simulation for 1 to 2 years, perhaps at the most, just getting into it. They're learning the ropes, figuring out all the ins and outs of this crazy business of simulation education. But after, and I think as most of you probably could attest to this, after you've been in simulation for a little while, you really have learned a lot and you would probably consider yourself an advanced learner. So 60% of our content needs to be in that realm of content that a learner who's been in the field for perhaps 2 to 5 years might be looking for. There's lots of faculty development content, curriculum design content, more advanced levels of debriefing, that sort of thing. So what's been missing, we've been a little upside down in this. We've generally at our meeting in the past couple of years been tracking about 60% content for the novice learner, about 40% content for the advanced learner. And we really have been devoid of content for the very, very expert learner. Those are the people who have been sort of setting the pace for simulation for us for many years, but maybe haven't got a lot of resources to learn from at the meeting for themselves. So we're trying to reverse that. We're looking for some content for beginners. That's certainly true, about 25%. 60%, though, is going to be the main bolus of the content we'll be accepting is content that addresses the needs of those of you that have been in practice for, say, 2 to 5 years. And then we're also looking for those select 15% courses, and we do suspect we may have to invite a bit of this, but we're looking for expert content that can inform simulation that might be even from outside of simulation-based education. What are some other areas that are related that could really provide some great topics for us and for these expert learners? So if you have ideas about that or are interested in passing along ideas, even if you don't have a course on the topic that you're thinking about, but would have an idea for it, I would always welcome an email. And I'm at kadams@ssh.org, and you can certainly find that on our website. So that's the construct of the learner levels that we're looking for. And the next slide, I'll show you the 8 content tracks that always rise to the top. These are the 8 that rise to the top of our needs assessment every year. Assessment, curriculum design, debriefing, faculty development, interprofessional education, program administration, simulation-based research, and technical operations. Just a brief note on each of these to give you a sense of what we're looking for. In assessment, of course, we're trying to find courses that help us better evaluate our learners and evaluate our programs. How do we know that we're meeting the mark in our simulation-based learning interventions? In the submission platform, and we'll get to that in a little bit, we're actually going to ask you for your ideas on how you would know learners learned in your course and how you would know the course was successful. We have to show our results to the ACCME, just like all of you have to show your results to your institutions. And so assessment is going to be broadened a little bit this year, and we are looking for your help in assessing your course as well. But if you are versed on topics of assessment and different ways to do evaluation and assessment, consider this content area. Curriculum design and development is by far our biggest submission category. I would say probably last year about 60% of our content came into this category. It's huge because every kind of different scenario often falls into this particular category. Different ways to develop the curriculum and the different types of curriculum all seem to fall into this category. If you have a course that's really focusing on the design and development process of curriculum, that's where it will go. The different specialties of the course you can identify when you submit it, and I'll show you that in just a second. You can design that, and we will track it into clinical specialties if it fits into a clinical specialty or into a simulation specialty. But again, we try to chunk this category up, but it is very large. The debriefing category is a sort of a subcategory of faculty development, but it is an important one. It's a bit smaller category in terms of how much content we get, but of course everybody needs to be involved in debriefing, so it's one of our more popular categories in terms of attendance at the meeting. Faculty development, probably our second largest category. Maybe it's in probably a dead heat with interprofessional education. Everyone is concerned about how to do faculty development better, how to help a faculty not normally trained in simulation take on these skills. And so these are really crucial topic areas for us. Interprofessional education seems to span everything more and more every year because I know that many of you are trying to do your simulations across disciplines. Interprofessional education is still kind of an art. A lot of people are still figuring out how to do interprofessional education, and so this category remains. I do expect at some point in the next few years this will phase out, much as patient safety has, because patient safety, as we know, is implicit in all of our work, and I suspect interprofessional education will become the same, implicit in all of our work, but not quite yet. Many groups that are still feeling as though they are working in silos. And so we will continue putting out interprofessional content. So if you have some interventions or programs you've tried across an interdisciplinary spectrum, in other words, bringing nurses, physicians, EMTs, and others together, this would be a category you might want to consider. Program administration, basically this is the numbers end of things, management, evaluation of how well the program is doing financially, space use, space design, moving into new spaces, remodeling old spaces, how to basically administer a simulation program. That is what goes in there. Research basically is probably our most straightforward category with very little overlap. If you're involved in research and simulation and have some tips and tricks for people, this might be a good category for you. And then technical operations is a fairly new field in simulation, although we've had people doing this all along throughout the history of simulation, but really becoming a profession of its own. And there will be a bank of content for people who are working in technical operations within simulation. These 8 categories have been designed for the course proposals. There are also categories for the abstracts. They are very similar to these, with the exception of there are a few additional ones, and I will show you those in just a moment when we get to the call for abstracts. So we do try to get our content split up into categories that will make it easier for the learner to find what they need. Any questions so far? Am I going too fast? Anybody need any questions answered so far? All right, well, let's get started. I'm going to show you my screen here at ssdih.org. And the first thing I'm going to show you is how to access all kinds of information about the different types of content without ever logging in or getting started on submitting. You'll go to the Presenter Center here, which basically is just clicking on the word presenters at ssih.org. We'll take you to the Presenter Center homepage with information about how to get logged in and about the courses we're accepting content to. We currently are only selecting content for IMSH. The SimOps Symposium, which is happening in July, has already been closed. And then on the left, you'll see all kinds of definition documents under course content and under abstracts that will help you figure out how to go ahead and categorize your submission. We'll start with the call for proposals here, and these are all PDFs that you can download and take a look at on your own time. Basically, we talk about our main content areas of emphasis. We are featuring submissions for the expert, emphasis on faculty development, documented improvements in patient safety are the three main emphases that we're looking for, or three things that we're really trying to find content on this year that we feel has been missing in the past. Definitely read through the call for proposals. The other thing the call proposals does, it gives you all of the categories, so you can self-select those ahead of time. You are only able to choose one option in each category, so the 8 we just spoke on. And then the secondary categories are listed here. These are simulation-specific categories, and if your content falls into one of these, we'd want you to check this, but these are not optional. The secondary and healthcare specialty categories are optional. So you may choose one option in each of the secondary and healthcare specialty categories if it's appropriate. Those are listed here, as well as the different kinds of courses and abstracts that you have to choose from. We have 5 course types, and we have 4 abstract types, and you'll want to familiarize yourself with those so that you can choose the content that the format that works best for the delivery of your content. We get a lot of questions about discerning between the abstract submission, which is presentation as a poster. So when you submit an abstract to IMSH, it is assumed that if you're accepted, you will give a poster presentation, have a poster at the meeting. In addition, every year, the Scientific Content Committee will choose up to 25 awardees from those posters who will be invited to give an oral presentation. So there's an opportunity for an oral presentation, but it is invited. The podium presentation, which is a course proposal type, is often confused with the abstract presentation because people think that it may be an oral presentation. That's not what it is. It's a 45 to 60-minute presentation about a course intervention or project you might be working on, or some research you've done, or a topic that you'd like to go more in depth on, but it is a didactic. Here, I'll get to it here. Sorry if I'm making any of you dizzy. The podium presentation is a 45 or 60-minute didactic presentation that's included in the educational section of IMSH. So it's different than an abstract. All abstracts are presented as posters and will be invited to give a 10-minute oral if they happen to be one of the awardees. So I hope that makes sense. I get quite a few questions on that. So study the call for content for both the proposals and the abstracts. In the abstract category, we are looking for studies, research studies. We're looking for research studies that are completed. If you are involved in a research study and would like to submit it to SSH, you definitely can do that in the work in progress category, which is listed 4th here. There's quite a bit of definition about that further on in the call for abstracts. So if your results are not final yet, do not submit it to either the research abstract, program innovation, or technology innovation area. All of these areas require completed results. Instead, put it into a work in progress, and then we would encourage you to submit it as a completed work next year when the work has been done. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions? I'm going to check the chat box here. Okay. All right, good. So familiarize yourself with the call. There's a lot of information here. Required components documents for each of the courses and abstracts tell you how many characters in each text box. We encourage you to go ahead and create a Word document first so that you can cut and paste into the submission pages when we get there. They will time out, and then you will be left hanging, hopefully not, but early on, we did have some submitters who were spending a lot of time composing in the submission pages. I tried to increase the amount of time before they would time out, but I'm not able to manipulate that. So it is a good idea to have everything ready ahead of time. Jamie had a question. Can you submit an abstract and a podium presentation? Yes, we do have people that do that. If your abstract is completed work or you put it in as a work in progress and you also want to give it a go as a podium presentation, you're more than welcome to do so. There's no restriction on submitting the same topic to both abstracts and course proposals. So that's absolutely fine. The other thing I wanted to point out to you is there are resource documents here, what we're looking for in terms of scores. We did have a separate document here on the categories for each one of the types. How to write learning objectives. This is very important. You are scored on whether or not your learning objectives are clear and measurable, and whether or not they tie to your basic overview. So we want all of that to work together. Please familiarize yourself with our disclosure policy. You will be able to complete your disclosure once and once only. It's very easy, and I'll show you how to do that in just a few minutes. A word about references. We are asking for references on everything that comes in. We would like some evidence to show that this has been done or studied. If it hasn't been done and studied and it's your first attempt at this, then note that. Let us know that you've looked through the literature and that there isn't anything else like that out there. This helps us understand what we're accepting that might be new and innovative, and what kinds of things maybe have been backed up with evidence, if this is a new twist, that kind of thing. So please provide references. We've given you a reference format document here that shows you examples of how we would like the references formatted. I've had many people ask me if we do APA style or AMA style, and I always have to laugh because we do simulation in healthcare journal style, which is its own style. It is sort of loosely formatted on a few others, but we basically are following the reference format that is used in our simulation in a healthcare journal, which is a bit nondescript, but very effective nonetheless. So we've provided you with some reference formats to look at. We've tried to give you multiple examples within the different kinds of references, for example, journals, preceding articles, books, chapters, and the like. Please note that when you cite your references in your narrative, we would like you to show where you've got evidence for some of the comments that you're making. Certainly, if you are identifying gaps in practice, we ask for that. You'll see that in the submission pages. And if there is evidence to those gaps, we'd love to have you include the citations for that. So that would be great. They should be placed as ordinal superscripts. So use numbers 1 through 10 as a small superscripts that correspond to the numbered references that you list. So that's an important piece. We didn't used to require references on the course proposals, but we did find it really would have helped us a lot to know sort of where some of this was coming from. So we have added it this year. Go ahead and spend some time. All of these documents can also be found in the submission pages when you go ahead and get that far, and I'll show you that in just a few minutes. Okay, we're going to go ahead. And now the next step, and this is very important, it's important to go ahead and activate your account at sSIH.org if you haven't already. However, many of you will already be in our system, especially if you've been with us in the past at IMSH. Even if you were a contributing author that didn't get accepted, your work that you were working with the primary author didn't get accepted, you're going to still be in our database. Most people are going to our site and making new accounts, which is locking them out of being able to submit. I believe our communications manager told us we had 575 of those happen over the weekend, which is really creating a little bit of a backlog for us. We're working through those as quickly as we can. But your first step to activate your account, go to sSIH.org. You're going to click on sign in. And then if you have not reactivated your account in the last couple of months since we put this new website out, I'd like you to go ahead and click on create account but you won't actually be creating it. You're going to be searching for your email address. Enter your email address here, and if you click on Create My Login, if it finds you, it will send you an email telling you how to go ahead and activate without duplicating your member record or non-member record. You don't need to be a member to do this. So it's important to go ahead and enter your email here, click on Create My Login, and then you'll get an email if you're in our system. Follow those directions to get your account activated. If you do not receive an email, it will show you that it cannot find you in our database. Then you can go ahead and create a non-member, or you can certainly join SSH at that time if you would like to. But for purposes of submission, you don't need to join. You just need to create a non-member account. Now at ssh.org on the home page, there is a non-member account creation piece. And when you click on that, it will walk you through what I just did. You'll need to click on Create an Account, and it tells you how to do that here. Okay? This is a crucial step. If you happen to create a duplicate account, it will slow you down a little bit. Just send me an email. We'll get it cleaned up as fast as we possibly can. Darlene, I see that you have your hand raised. Do you have a question? And you'll need to unmute if you do. Darlene? Okay, well, hopefully she will chime back in here. And again, you can unmute and ask me a question at any time, but I just saw that Darlene's hand was raised. Okay, now that you have gotten yourselves activated at ssh.org, we're going to go ahead and sign in. And I'll go ahead and do my login here. And you'll go to the Presenter Center, which is located right here under Presenters. And you'll click on Proposal Submission. And it will look like this. This is where you'll go ahead and submit your new content by either clicking on the Create New button, or you can start out by finishing your disclosure. And once you do your disclosure form once, it works for every submission you are listed on or submit for IMSH 2015. Your disclosure is good in our system for a full year. So I encourage you to go ahead and just get that out of the way. If you're listed on other submissions, you've probably already done this or gotten an email instructing you to do this. But that's where your disclosure tab is. It's a little bit confusing because your disclosure tab is not located where your profile is. We will also send you into your profile. I'll do that in a few minutes. But your disclosure is tied over here to the Presenter Center. So it's on the Presenter Center side of the database.
Kathy,
yes.
Does every author need to complete a disclosure statement or only the primary?
No, everybody does. And everybody needs to, we need you to get your submissions started and completed by the deadline, which is Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central. If you have authors that are away or whatever, they will have gotten an email that says they need to get this done right away. However, we're going to give them just a few days to get that finished up past the deadline. I won't be deleting anything, certainly. If you've got pending authors, but get them in as quickly as possible, because the sooner they're in, the more quickly you get reviewed, and the more quickly you get reviewed, the better it all goes. So it really does make a difference. I've had submissions hang for a month without disclosure completion, and I can tell you by that time the reviewers are tired and they're pushing them through a little faster, and things don't probably go as easily systems-wise. Notifications can get late. So it's just really, really to your benefit to get things done as quickly as possible, preferably by the deadline. Don't wait until June 4th to start your submission. If you would like to submit, I would encourage you to get it started today and then continue working on it. You don't have to finally submit it until everything is complete, but at least you're in and logged in well before the deadline. So I would encourage all of you on the call, if you're interested in submitting content, to go ahead and get it started. I can delete things much more easily than I can add them. So if you change your mind, decide I'm not ready, that's okay. All you have to do is send me an email. It's not a problem. Any other questions on this step before I go any further? Check the chat box here. Okay, looks like we're doing all right. So to start a new submission, you're going to click on Create New. And down here, you'll have to fill in a few things. You're going to have to fill in a title. So I'm going to say this is a test. So I remember not to do this. Your system will automatically assign you as the submitting author. Because I am an administrator, I have to find myself here. So just give me a second. I'm always glad this page loads because this is exactly what your co-author process looks like. When you add a faculty member or author to your course or abstract, the page is going to look just like this. You have to put in their last name. Okay, so that's me, and you search for it. And that's how you'll find out whether or not they're in our database. You can't just create a new account without doing this first. And chances are good we already know about them. I'm selecting myself here. Once you hit select, it automatically populates them into your submission and sends them an email that says, gosh, Mary put you on a submission. This is the name of it. This is what type of submission it is. We need you to complete your disclosure form. If it's a course, they also have to go to their profile and put in their bio and CV, and I'll show you how that works in a minute. You will choose which meeting you want to submit to. Your option is the 15th International meeting. The other one really doesn't have anything available. And then let's say we're going to go ahead and put in a research abstract right now. I'll walk you through that part. And then hit Create Presentation. Now, if you had looked ahead and gotten all the required components figured out, you've got your research abstract ready to load, you can go right into the Content tab and start adding things. So it's fairly simple at this point. Test. I'd like to show you that every one of these fields has a tooltip. Well, except for title, which is evident, but every tab has a tooltip that tells you what we're looking for, okay? So that if you forget, this is the exact language that is on the required components document that I indicated you should check earlier. These are the categories for the abstracts. You can see they're very similar in many ways. We have human factors, which is new to the other categories. The physical setting category is similar to tech ops. Team issues is similar to IPE. So you can see that we have a lot of overlap here. But this is how the Scientific Content Committee reviews the abstracts. And then the secondary categories on the abstracts are all about clinical specialty or medical specialty. So let's say you were doing something in nursing, you would want to indicate that. If it doesn't apply and your project is not specific to a clinical specialty, then you won't check anything there. That's not required. You'll save that, and you'll move on to the Details tab. It'll tell you that it's saved successfully, if you can all see that. Wait for that little green indicator. Then go to the Details tab, and this is where you'll cut and paste in your hypothesis, methods, results, and conclusions. You'll also put your references in here. And again, note the tooltip instructions. If you forget or are having problems, you can check those. You can upload one file to support your abstract. It might be a table of results in a Word doc. It might be a photo. It might be an image, or it might be, some sort of other file supporting graphic or something that shows results or gives an example. The file types that are accepted are here. They need to be less than 20 megs, so you might have to compress them. But we do publish any accepted abstracts in our journal, so we have to have them be manageable file size and only one per abstract. So you will upload here. Do not upload the Word doc of your entire abstract. Make sure that's cut and paste into the text boxes. This is just for supporting documentation. Once you're done filling in all of these boxes, you have to have something in every box before it's going to save it. So when you're cruising along here and you are done with everything, but you need to go back and find another reference, make sure you've got at least something filled in the references box so that it doesn't kick you out. You also need to indicate your IRB status. Now, for those of you submitting work in progress, this isn't going to be a problem. Just assess, this is description, no human subjects were involved. IRB attestation is not applicable if it's technology description. You can say that it meets the requirements of IRB for your institution, that it does not meet the requirements and is not approved, or that it's exempt. And if it's a work in progress, you may be exempt. I would put in, though, one of these boxes where you're at in the IRB approval process. If you've applied but not yet received it, that's just good for us to know. Okay? So I'm going to click that I am exempt because my study doesn't need it, and then I'm going to hit save. I wait for saved successfully. Now, if I want to add my co-authors, I click on the tab right up here, and we'll just go through exactly what I went through before. Add co-author. You'll put in their last name, and I'm going to put in my colleague, Holly. I'll search for Holly, select her. She will be automatically added. You'll see her name down here. And because she's already filled out a disclosure for me in another course, her current disclosure is done. And you'll see a summation of the disclosure status right here under the co-author tab at any time when you check back. That will always be here. If the co-author were not completed, you will see a little checklist back on your home screen. There's a little checklist here for each submission that tells you if your content is complete and the status of your disclosures. You'll want to keep checking back for these to make sure they're all filled in blue. Once they are, you can submit the presentation. This button will be active if all of these buttons have been filled in with blue. If they are not yet full, disclosure is still pending. This disclosure for you is still pending, for example, or one of your co-authors hasn't completed their disclosure, this button will not activate, and you'll have to wait until they finish that. Now, you'll be able to see who is still outstanding, and you can send them another little email reminding them to do it. They've already received one email with instructions. If the email we had in our system is no longer good for them, one of two things will happen. I will either get a non-deliverable message. I have about 50 of those right now that we're trying to track down those people, find out where they are. Or they just won't get the email at all. So finding out if they've gotten it and if they've completed that step, you can tell if they've completed it here. If they haven't, you might want to follow up with them to make sure they got the email. The last thing I'm going to highlight in the format for the abstracts is the More Info tab. And the More Info tab is really important because it has 9 documents that are specific to the abstracts that you're going to want to make sure you understand. Our review criteria, our call for peer reviewers. We are still looking for reviewers. If anyone's interested, we do evaluate your CV to see if you've got enough experience to help us with this. The required components, all of this kind of thing, what your contributing authors need to be able to do to complete things. So this is an important place to find more information, and you have access to this once you create your proposals. All right, now let me just see if anyone has any questions, or we seem to be doing pretty well so far. Okay. I'll just stop for a second. I'm going to get to a different page. Does anyone have any other concerns or questions? Okay. So I'm going back to proposal submission now. We're going to take a look at a course proposal and how that might be different. You would still create new. I'm going to go into one that's already been created, and that's this little test debate that I started. And again, there are 5 types of courses that you can put in. Let's go to the content tabs, and we are looking for quite a bit more information on the courses that we would like to make you aware of. Title, certainly how long you would like your course to go. That varies depending on the course submission type, so you have some options there. Your categories, we've already talked about. The learner level, we've already talked about. The primary audience, target audience, choose one of these 6 who would most benefit from this content. And then go ahead and save. The content tab asks you for some specific things about your course overview, which has to be 75 words or 450 characters. The course overview, as we indicate here, needs to be tied to your title, and the overview needs to speak to your title. They need to work together really well, and the overview also needs to work well with your learning objectives so that learners can understand exactly what it is you're planning to teach. Again, all of this is included in the required components documents that you'll find on the site. Your learning objectives need to be measurable. You will be scored on this. If they are measurable and direct, we have to provide direct measurable learning objectives to the ACCME and ANCC. In particular, the nurses dinged us on this last year. I had to go back through every course the day before we started IMSH because they weren't going to give us credit until I made sure the word understand was out of every single learning objective. So this has gotten more and more rigorous. We did include a resource document about how to write learning objectives on our website, so I'd hope you would look at that. This is a very important component. And then you can go into more detail about your content here. There are 5 other categories we're asking for descriptions in, so you'll want to look through the required components document. You don't want to reiterate it all here. Just tell us more about the content here that you think would be important for us to know. This should be sort of a further explanation of your course overview so that you make sure we get the full picture. On the design tab, you're going to tell us some important things about how this course speaks to adult learning theory, what about this course will be good for adult learners. So we want that here. We want what instructional resources are you using to help bring your points home. It might be PowerPoint and lecture and small group work. It might be that you would like to use equipment and demonstration. It might be that you would like learners to actually complete tasks and report back or show proficiency through pre and post test. However you decide to do that, describe your resources for learning here. And then give us a timeline, sort of not minute by minute, but certainly chunks of your 90 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever you're proposing. Show us how you plan to distribute the learning content within that time frame. The next tab is the assessment tab, and I have alluded to this briefly. We are not requiring these 2 fields, but we are recommending them and hoping you will help us with this. We are looking for ways that we could tell that learners have learned from your course, other than just the satisfaction measure that will be distributed post-course every night. They will get an eval that asks them to evaluate the courses they attended. In addition to that, though, we would like to know, are there some metrics that could be used to help us understand if learners really did learn as a result of this program? What kinds of things would they now be able to do that they couldn't do before? It might only be 1 or 2 things. It might be completion of a pre and post test. It could be that they can answer some questions successfully through an ARS. And you will have ARS as an option for you, and I'll show you that in a second. Tied to that, but separate, is how well did the course do? How do you think it went? How will you know? Will they be engaged? Will they have developed a little report at the end? Will they have been able to go home and design a curriculum based on what they've done here? Tell us what sorts of metrics we can use to develop whether or not the course was effective. 60% of learners were able to complete the test well. That would indicate success in your mind. Those kinds of things. Now, I know you have to do this at home in your own institutions. We actually have to do the same thing. So we would like your help in doing these 2 particular areas as well. Here's the reference tab. We do ask you for some references. And then logistics. For the debate format, really you can only have the option of do you need internet and do you need an audience response system. I'll show you a workshop logistics. Go back up here to your proposal submission. If you're submitting a workshop or a pre-conference course, this logistics tab is much more extensive. Again, go to content, down here to logistics. And we have many more questions for you. Do you need flip charts? How many? We are probably the most flip chart heavy group that our AV company has ever worked with. They always laugh at us. How many mannequins do you need? What model? Task trainers, other AV equipment, and other equipment needs, supplies, disposables, that kind of thing. You have the option to enter all of that. I can tell you that the planning committee is looking for highly interactive courses this year. We are a very interactive group of learners. We don't fill the house on didactic sessions. The most we can expect in a didactic session for SSH is probably 50 to 60 people. I think we have a couple of expert panels that might get over 100, but by and large, our average attendance on a didactic course is right around 50. Most people want to go to workshops, and these learners do like interactivity. You're all simulation educators, so I bet that's not a surprise to any of you. So the more interactive your course is, the better. Even if it's a didactic session, make it as interactive as you can through question and answer, through activities you need your learners to discuss. Bring the point home by engaging them as much as you can. And that would be my advice to all of you in terms of acceptance. Interactivity is very, very important. I'm going to take a break here now and ask for any questions from the audience. I've gone very quickly, so I want to make sure I'm giving you plenty of time. Stephanie, do you have a question? Go ahead. Stephanie, I don't hear you. Do you want to put it in the chat box? We're having trouble picking up your audio, Stephanie. Can the rest of you hear me okay? Just a couple of you tell me. Hello?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right. I'm just going to check here my PowerPoint to see what I might be missing. Oh, yes, I need to show you the bio tab. One other place I need to show you on the Presenter Center. Once you're logged in, if you're presenting a course proposal or you're involved in a course proposal, go over to the home button over here and click on My SSH. All right. And click on My Profile. And then click on the Bio tab, which is right here. And you can edit all of your demographics and all that kind of thing. But put in your bio statement, should be about 75 words. And then you can upload your CV right down here. There will be a little button that says Add New if you don't have one in there currently. And you can go ahead and upload it. It is a PDF. We do ask for a PDF and upload it into this section right here. We do look at the CVs and bio statements when we're reviewing course proposals. We want to make sure the faculty really are able to proficiently deliver the content that they are listed to deliver. So that is an important component for us. Okay, I think we have covered most of the main sections here. So before I get into the review process, are there any other questions? Yes, yes, yes. Oh, good. Thank you for everybody saying yes. That's awesome. Sandy had a great question. Character counts are with spaces. I was so surprised, but that was what this web platform provided us. So it does include spaces. Clint had a question. Course logistics, equipment that we'll need to demonstrate with, will there be storage options available? Yes, there are storage options available. You'll have it delivered right to the Memorial Convention Center if you want to ship some of your own stuff, and we can store it for you and we can secure it for you. So that is an option. If you are using equipment or supplies provided by our vendors, we'll be negotiating all of that and trying to get that all secured in October and November of next year. Then they will be bringing it over and helping us populate the Learning Center. The Learning Center this year will not be in the exhibit hall. Those of you that were at IMSH in San Francisco know that we had a really tough time because there was no real good place for the Learning Center. So it ended up in the exhibit hall, which was extremely noisy. We have been able to secure a really wonderful spot for interactive learning. So for courses that are highly interactive with equipment and all of that sort of thing, we've got 9 rooms secured as our own little sim center up above the exhibit hall, but sequestered and quiet, so that it's close to all of the equipment, but not right there in the theater. So that'll be much better. Good question. Any other questions about the submission process at this point? Okay, let me just whip through here quickly. And then we will talk a little bit about the review process and how that all works. I just want to make sure I've covered everything. We did that. All right. All content submitted to SSH is reviewed by 3 peer reviewers. And we have a very extensive reviewer training, recruitment and training machine that is going on right now in full speed. I've just done the numbers, and we are now at half of where we were last year when we closed. And we've still got 48 hours left. I think we're going to have a very, very full year of reviewing a lot of content coming in for IMSH. So we are recruiting reviewers. We try to give every reviewer five submissions to review. In past years, we've had many reviewers doing many more than that, but we find our quality of reviews is much greater when we are giving them between 5 and 10. The peer review process will go on probably from Thursday through the 31st of July. We will give them almost 2 months to get everything reviewed and wrapped up. And then in early August, the chairs for each section of content will meet and determine which courses will be recommended for acceptance, which ones are recommended for non-acceptance. And then the planning committee meets in the middle of August, takes all of those recommendations and makes final decisions on which courses will be included, which abstracts will be included, and which ones will not be. Once that happens, then we go ahead and issue the notifications. We are targeting August 31st. The reason we backed our deadline up so much this year is that every single year we are unable to meet a satisfactory notification deadline because we've been closing at the end of July and trying to get all of the reviews and final decisions made in 4 weeks, and it's just not been sufficient, especially as the amount of our content continues to rise. So we are giving ourselves more time this year, 2 months instead of 1, and we are targeting our notification on August 31, which will be right before we launch registration. So we're working hard to get that last day of August notification out to all of you. And I think it's the last day of August, the 31st or the 30th. It just occurred to me that I might have that wrong, but anyway, it'll be the last day of August. Sometimes I get my 30s and 31s mixed up. That will give you plenty of time to register. We will open registration right around September 15th. And if you are accepted for an abstract or course proposal, we don't have much time to turn it around and get it published. The abstracts go to press on October 1st, and the courses go to press on October 1st as well. We will put out a preliminary program once you agree to accept our invitation. And that all has to happen in early September. Once we get all of your acceptances back, then we will go ahead and put out a preliminary program, but it won't have dates and times assigned yet because we do need to work with you on that. So that's the process and how it goes forward. We will open up registration, as I said, in mid-September. And then the agenda builder, which will have all of the specific dates and time for your course, will probably roll out right around November 1st. So that people can start signing up for courses. IMSH is about 2.5 weeks earlier, 3 weeks earlier this year than normal. We're interested to see what that does to our attendance. Some people are telling us it's going to be much better because it isn't falling at the end of the month, which was really difficult with the academic term. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with our enrollment. Jamie asked a wonderful question. Clarify for the sessions, you said there's about 50 to 100 attendance for each session. That ends up being our average, Jamie. When we do a didactic session, I generally have a room set up for 120 or more. But my experience is that we usually get about 60 or 70 in those courses. Our workshops, we've been trying to limit to 50 or 60. I think last year we went up to 70 people in our workshops. I did get a fair amount of feedback that that's too many. But we were very limited on rooms and space last year. So I'm thinking this year we're going to be able to bring that average down to about 40 for workshops, and then plan on, say, 60 plus learners if you're in a didactic session. We have an awful lot of didactic sessions that hadn't drawn as well as we would have hoped in past years. I do see the emphasis moving a little bit less from didactic and more to workshop. We have enough course rooms this year to pull that off in New Orleans. We've got about 40 rooms available to us that we could run simultaneously in smaller courses, and then we can combine those to make larger ones. So we're working our way through that. A lot of it depends on the content, how much of it really hits the mark in terms of what's needed by the membership and that sort of thing. What are some other questions that I can answer for you? If you have any trouble logging in, I encourage you to call me. Don't just send an email, because my email right now is abhorrent, as you can imagine. So don't hesitate to give me a ring on the phone. Actually, we can get it resolved much more quickly. If you do send me an email, it will take me, hopefully I can get right to it, but it may take me a few hours. My email address is kadams@ssih.org. But for submission-related items, I would prefer that you use IMSH 2015 at ssih.org. Either one of them will get to me, and I will get back to you. Yes, and Linda's correct. Well, the deadline is technically 5 p.m. Central on Wednesday, and it is 2 p.m. here Central now. So you have a little bit more than 48 hours to get things pulled together, 51 to be exact. So it's coming. Linda, thank you. Again, get it started. It's really not so bad once you start pulling it all together. You can get your submission created, put in placeholders in all of your text boxes, and just hold it. Getting your co-authors assigned right away is pretty easy to do, and that is the most expedient thing you can do to make sure you get everything done on time. I can tell you that the disclosure completion process, people out of town, people not figuring out how to log in, that is by far the most onerous piece of the process. It takes the longest. And one thing I will caution you about, I've had a couple of people call and say, well, can I just start it and add my faculty after I get accepted or denied? I would not recommend you do that, because part of the score is the robust definition of the faculty. So if you're doing a workshop, but you're the only person presenting it, it probably won't get accepted, because it will not look like it can be very interactive. So, learner to student ratio or student to teacher ratio is a big deal in simulation. You all know that. And we have a huge faculty as a result of this. We often have 5, 6, 7 people on a faculty for interactive programs. So if you're doing something that's interactive in particular, and you are adding co-authors, make sure you get all of their names on there. Worst case scenario would be only to add one name for a workshop and then have you be denied. I'd hate to see that happen. So make sure you've got adequate faculty to cover your content. That's a very, very important piece. If you're presenting a podium presentation and you are the only presenter, that is appropriate. We're not expecting panels for podium presentations. We will not ding you for that. Expert panels should have enough panelists to adequately cover the topic. One more piece of advice I will give you is that if you are working on a topic and you know of others at other institutions that have done similar work, try teaming up. By the volume I'm seeing here just in the past few days, I think we're going to have way more content than we can accept. And if you have joined forces with another team and we can see that it's a multi-institutional effort, we are more likely to give it the reviewers really do favor those in many ways, because it shows that there's going to be different perspectives, that it won't be just this is how we did it, but that it will probably have a bit of evidence associated with it, given the fact that it was a broader effort. So last year, what we ended up doing is we had 500 plus submissions. We ended up being able to accept about 350 of them, because we combined, I would say we had 20 courses that we combined into panels of people presenting on like topics. So I would encourage you to go ahead and do that ahead of time. And if we like your topic and if it's well put together, we may end up pairing you up with other people, and that will be in your acceptance letter. So I go through a pretty extensive process of trying to find like topics within the formats given, and we do try to make it as efficient as we can so that we can include as many people as possible. One other question I was given earlier today, and it is one I'm going to take forward to the planning committee. I had a person ask, if I am denied, may I automatically bring my work as a poster? We've not done that in the past. If you're denied, you simply are denied. I will bring it to the planning committee. I know that the leadership is hopeful that we can get as many people given this experience and getting them to the meeting as possible to sort of help broaden the sort of the passion of simulation. We're all very passionate about simulation because we know it works. So I will take that question to the planning committee. It's not one that we've been asked before, but I've been asked a couple times now this year. So I will be taking it to the planning committee. So stay tuned for that. That will be in your notification letter. If that is indeed an option, it will be in your notification letter. Any other questions? I think I've got a hand raised here. Stephanie, I think we got your question answered. Darlene, we took care of yours. Anybody else with questions? I do see we're getting close to the top of the hour. Just a few minutes left. Again, don't hesitate to call me if you need any help at all, or send an email. And I've really enjoyed these sessions. They've been a little quiet, but it's been nice to see so many people log on and so many good questions. So we're really excited that you guys are interested in submitting to the meeting. All of your experience is invaluable to the profession and to the practice of simulation, and I hope to see all of you at IMSH. Hang on for a few minutes if you want. Otherwise, I'll leave this line live, and you can get back to your day. If you have a question, just pipe up.